Hi, welcome back to Greenleaf Family Farms. I'm Amanda, and today we're going to be making our sourdough starter. I did order this from Walmart, but it came from KVY LLC, and we're just going to get our sourdough started here. So I have my little jar. I also have my kitchen scale here. The first thing in this is that we're going to open our starter, which is our dry sourdough. And we're going to put that right inside of our jar. And that was 5 grams exactly, and that's exactly what it was supposed to be on here. So after that, I'm going to take 10 grams of warm purified water. All right, looks like we've got it pretty well mixed. So we're gonna give it 30 minutes. So we're gonna add 5 grams of flour in there. It's about half a tablespoon. That's not very much compared to what I thought it was gonna be. It's actually really thick. And I was expecting it to be a lot thinner. Any of the starters that I've ever had have been thinner than this. So it's either that this is incorrect or maybe I did something wrong, but we will see. It says that we let it sit, cover it and let it sit loosely for 24 hours. And then we should see some activity and some bubbles, but I honestly don't know if I'm gonna get any bubbles from this because this is really thick. But we'll see in a couple of days. Yesterday we did step 2, which was feeding 10 grams of water and 10 grams of flour, and then we were to let it rest. So we're at this stage right now. It did have some bubbles in it last night, not too many bubbles today, but there are some bubbles in there. And what we're gonna do is now day 3 step, which is, so the instructions say, transfer 5 grams to a fresh jar, feed a ratio of 10 grams water, 10 grams flour, which this here would be 5 grams, which is like nothing in the bottom of this. So we're gonna try this out. I'm gonna keep this larger one because I'm gonna also do the 10 grams of water, 10 grams of flour in that one because I don't think that this is gonna do much. We will see though. So again, I'm gonna add 10 grams of water and 10 grams of flour to this. Of flour and then 10 grams of water. So that ended up being about 3.5 teaspoons to be the 10 grams of water. And it was a little less than a quarter of a cup of flour. All right, this is what it looks like now. It is very thick at the bottom of that jar, but what it says now is to stir and rest for 8 hours. So I'm just gonna loosely put this top on, and then we'll be back in a little bit in about 8 hours to check on this. Again, I am gonna save this one and I'm gonna do the exact same thing as if the instructions were backwards and they really meant to feed this one and not the 5 gram jar. 8 hours later, looking great. Late afternoon, feed, discard all but 5. So we feed it first and then we discard all but 5 grams. So to feed it, we're gonna feed it 10 grams of flour and 10 grams of water. And then we're gonna rest for 6 to 8 more hours. So this is the larger one that I ended up keeping all of. It's nice and bubbly, a little on the thin side. And this is the one that we only kept the 5 grams of, or we put the 5 grams in. And it's got a lot more bubbles, less bubbly. They've actually both got they're about the same amount of bubbles, except for one seems like they're larger bubbles than the other. So again, it just says this time that we're supposed to put put 10 grams of water and 10 grams of flour in each one, and then we'll take out 5 grams. So I'm gonna go ahead and measure out 10 grams of flour and 10 grams of sugar for each. Okay, that's the 10 grams of flour in that one. And now we'll get the 10 grams of flour in this one. Grams exactly of flour in that one. And then what we're going to do is get the 10 grams of water in each one. $10. And then we're going to stir those, and then it says to take 5 grams away from each one. No, it says to, oh yes, discard all but 5 grams. So we're going to discard all but 5 grams. So this one I'm going to discard all but 5, but the other one I'm going to discard only 5 grams. Okay, so I'll leave that, and we're gonna subtract 5 grams from that. And we're at 6 grams, which is okay. We discarded, oh no, we're gonna discard all but, that's right. We're gonna leave 5 grams in there. Seems wrong. All right. All right, so that is what is left. It's 5 grams down at the bottom of there. So I'm gonna cap this one lightly, and then we'll come back to that one and finish it off. Tomorrow we'll do the last feeding of it. And that one, tomorrow we'll feed late in the day, and then we will discard all but 5 grams again. So we'll see. This one again, I am gonna discard 5 grams and keep the rest. All right, so we're clearing it out. And we're actually at 8, which is okay. We discarded a little more than what it said we needed to discard. But that's what that one looks like. So we're gonna loosely cap this, and then we're gonna check them out either later tonight or tomorrow morning, depending on the time. It does say 6 to 8 hours, so we'll see either tomorrow or later on tonight. We're gonna do the last step now. It says that we're gonna feed 10, or the evening is the last one. It's the last feed of the day. Discard all but 5 grams. Feed 25 grams of flour and 25 grams of water. So we're gonna take some of this out.
Mom, can I do it too?
And then we're gonna feed this one. This one's the one that we're removing
Mom, can I help you?
all but the 5 grams from.
Mom, can I help you?
This one's a little bit hard for you to help me with, baby.
Please.
And what we're gonna do is we're gonna add, this time it's 25 grams of water and 25 grams of flour, which is a lot more than what we've done this whole time. So I want 25 grams of flour and 25 grams of water. I need to weigh it, baby. I need to weigh this, babe.
What is this?
Alright, that's 25 grams of flour. And then we're gonna do 25 grams of water right now. Ah, 25 exactly. And then we're gonna stir this one together. And then it says that we'll set this one and leave it for 10 hours before we can actually use it. Again, this one's really thick. And I did it how it said to do it, so. Alright, so this one will sit just like this. And then our next one we're gonna do, where it says we're gonna remove 5 grams. Okay. I removed 7 from that one, but that's okay. And then we're gonna add the flour and the water to this one. And again, we're gonna do 10 of each. I'm sorry, 25 of each. Don't get that wet. And this is about a quarter of a cup that it's getting of the flour. Yeah, about a quarter of a cup of flour. And I didn't measure the water, so. And that is about 2.5 tablespoons of water that it needs. Alright, now I'm going to stir this one on up. This one is a lot thinner, which it's been the whole time a lot thinner. So, and this feels more of the consistency of any of the other starters that I've ever used before. And when I open them and smell them, this jar is not quite as sour as this jar is. However, this is a lot thicker. So, we'll see. So I'm just gonna close these ones up lightly, close the lids, and I'm not sealing them completely. I need some airflow in there still. And then we'll check on them in about 10 hours and see how they're doing. Now we're gonna make that sourdough bread with the sourdough starter that we had made. I did go ahead and put a little rubber band on it so that way I could tell when my starter has doubled after I put the flour or fed it with the flour and water. But this recipe is going to be like a rustic recipe, so it's not going to be sit in one of those little bowls that's really pretty that puts a design on it or anything like that. We're just going to mix it on up in here, and then we'll let it sit for about 90 minutes until it doubles again, and then we'll separate it at that point. So I'll come back on at that point. So for now, we're going to use a cup of our starter. And I am going to use half of each starter. And then I'm going to make sure that I feed these starters after. So starter number 1, which is the one that we took out the extra from the first time, does have slightly more bubbles in it than starter number 2 does. And I only got about a half of a cup. So what I'm going to do, since I only got about a half of a cup of the starters, I'm going to go ahead and add some yeast to it. So this is the starter that I was able to get out, and that is, like I said, about a half a cup. So we're going to use all of this. Excuse me. All right. Then we're going to use a cup and a half of warm water. And because I'm going to add the yeast, I'm going to go ahead and add that now. I'm going to add 2 teaspoons full of yeast. A lot of times with sourdough you don't add yeast, but because I'm not using as much of the sourdough starter as I would like, I am going to just add some yeast. I'm going to add 2.5 teaspoons full of salt to this. And I'm going to use the pink salt because that's my favorite. Two and a half teaspoons of that. Alright, so there's cup number 1. Get the rest of the starter out of that. And then we need an additional half cup. Okay, so we have 1.5 cups of water there. 5 cups of flour. Alright, now I'm just going to mix this all together and we're going to have a ball form. And off my fingers. Right, and now, like I said, I'm just going to kind of knead it in the bowl, and I'm just going like this and flipping it over the top of itself. That way it gets well incorporated. We don't have any dry, super dry spots or super wet spots. And it kind of reminds me of, at this point, almost Play-Doh, but a little bit softer. And because we added warm water, it's a little on the warmer side than like Play-Doh would be when we're playing with it. Alright, so now I've got it in a nice ball, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a different bowl. Actually, what I'll probably do is use the same bowl. I'm going to put some oil down at the bottom of the bowl so that way this doesn't stick, and then we're going to let it rest for 90 minutes. So we'll see you back here in 90 minutes. I actually am going to show you the feeding of the starter again, so I decided that I would show you this last part. So we have it still in the nice ball and my bowl still has some stuff in it, so I'm just going to spray it so that way this does not stick to it. Okay, so now I'm going to place this inside here. I am going to cover it and I'm going to leave it for 90 minutes and it should double in size. The smartest thing to do to determine whether or not it's doubled in size is to take a picture of it. So what I'm going to do is once I get everything fed, I'm going to take a picture of it just like this inside the bowl. So that way in 90 minutes I can confirm that it has grown, doubled in size. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and refeed our starters. So we're going to do each one. We're going to go ahead and add 30 grams of flour and 30 grams of water to each one. This measuring cup is a little bit bigger on the brim, I think, than the ones I normally use for this. Okay, there's 30 in flour on that one. And get 30 in flour on this one. All right. That was 31 in that one. So we're going to do 31 grams of water in that one. All right, 31 in that one, and then 30 in this one. A little short. 30 exactly. All right, and then we're gonna stir these two up and we will see you back here in a little bit. It has been an hour and a half now, so the full 90 minutes, and this is what our dough looks like now. So it's definitely risen. It looks like it has doubled in size for sure. So what we're gonna do now is we're going to half this dough in half, and then we're gonna pre-shape the balls, roll them into each other so that way the seams are underneath and make it into a ball. And then we're gonna spray parchment paper, which I have here, and then we're gonna put the balls on the parchment paper and then we'll cover them and then they will rise again. Then they will rise for 15 minutes. And then we'll make the balls into our loaf size if we're gonna do a loaf, or we'll leave them round and they'll rest for a total of 1 hour. So I'm just gonna split my dough in half in the bowl. So here's half my dough. And what I'm doing is just forming it into a ball, like I said, and we're rolling it into itself so that way all of the seams are underneath. And we're gonna kind of pinch those seams together. So we'll have a round ball still at the top. And we have a round ball just like this. I'm just gonna continue to make sure that it's round, leaving that seam on the bottom because we want the seam to be on the bottom. That way when we go to actually cook it, the seam will be on the bottom and we'll be able to do a little bit of a design on the top. Well, I'm gonna try to do a design on the top. Not that good at it, but we will see. So now all I'm doing is I'm gonna spray my parchment paper a little bit there, and this ball is going to go right there, and I'm going to scoot that one over. I'm going to get our next ball out. This one's slightly larger, so I scooted over the parchment paper and held the larger one back for this to go into. So again, we're just kind of tucking it into itself. And then we're gonna pinch those seams closed. So that way we have a pretty little ball. And we're gonna form our ball. That's what our ball looks like right now. All right, there's that ball. Now again, I'm gonna spray this one. And I'm gonna lay that one right there. And now I'm gonna cover again. I'm using the same piece of saran wrap for the first one. And then I'll go get a second piece of saran wrap for that second one. So we're gonna cover these for 15 minutes because we just messed with them a little bit. And we're covering them to keep them moist because we don't want them to get over dried. So I'm just gonna cover it just like that. I'm going to grab another piece for the other one. And I'll cover that one up as well. And we'll come back in about 15 minutes and we'll do the next step. My dough has rested for 15 minutes. I can see that they have gotten larger again. They're not doubled in size of what they were before, but they didn't really go down much from the size that they were. So they are, again, they are rested for the 15 minutes. And what we're gonna do now is we're gonna shape them into the loaves so that way we can get them into a loaf shape. One of them I'm actually gonna leave round because I like a round loaf. And the other one I am gonna do more of like a bread loaf. So I'm gonna kind of shape it more into a log. One of them, the one that I'm gonna do in the round loaf style, I'm actually gonna do in the Dutch oven, and the other one I'm gonna do on a regular cookie sheet. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm going to just shape this one into the log because the larger of the two is the one that I'm gonna do in the round. So basically what we're doing is we're just going to form it kind of into a loaf by elongating it a little bit.
I want to be in the video.
We're gonna just make this longer.
I'm gonna go.
And I don't want to mess with it too much. Like I said, I just want to kind of get it to be like a log shape. And getting it into a log shape now. Pretty loggish. What do you think? Looks like a log. So I'm going to set this one down. And what we are going to do is I'm going to cover this one back up. Cody's laying on Harper's blankets over there. She made herself a little fort under the chairs. And the little dog is laying in her spot. All right, I think that's log shaped enough. So I'm going to go ahead and cover this one again. And we're going to now let it rest for 1 hour before we actually bake it. And what we'll do is we'll turn the oven on to preheat about 15 minutes prior to the hour time frame being done. So that way we can get it preheated and my Dutch oven will be nice and hot. So this one I'm gonna just put right over the, put right on top of the cookie sheet that it's gonna cook on, and then all they'll have to do is pull off this saran wrap once we're ready.
I'm helping, so I need to like.
Yes, you're helping, so you need to wipe your hands. So we're going to put this right on this pan. This pan is hot, babe. I'm just going to lift it and put it right on this pan. And now we're going to let it rest, like I said, for an hour. Okay, so this one is on the pan that it's going to cook on. And we're just going to set this one to the side. My house was cold, so I heated up, I turned on the oven just for a little bit of heat. But I forgot the cookie sheet was already in there. So now with this one, I'm just gonna leave it just like this, and I'm gonna cover it back up, and I'm gonna leave it for the hour time frame. Also, I'm just gonna stick it in a warmer spot so that way it's close to the oven. And then in an hour, we'll go ahead and just do our little design on it, sprinkle it with some flour, and get it in the Dutch oven, and get it in the get that cookie sheet also in the oven. So we'll see you back here in about an hour. We've let it rest for an hour now, and this is what the round one looks like. I am going to put some still pictures in there also. So I'm going to take this saran wrap off, and then we're going to show you what the loaf one looks like as well. So this is what the loaf looks like. Same thing, take the saran wrap right off of that. And now this one's going to go in the oven just like this. And this one, I'm just going to take this whole parchment paper and everything and put it right into our Dutch oven. And Harper's going to help me video that part, right? We almost forgot to do the little designs on the top of our breads before we put them in. So that's the part that we're going to do right now. So what Harper's going to do is she's going to take some flour in her hand.
And pull it in it.
Harper's going to take some flour in her hand.
And pull
In
it
your
in
hand.
the cup.
Now put it in your hand, babe. And you're going to sprinkle it on the top of the bread like this. Sprinkle it on the top up high. That's enough. That's enough flour, babe. Babe, that's enough flour. What you do is you get the flour off the top. Harper got a lot of flour. Okay, that's enough. No more flour, babe.
Mom, I didn't get to put onion on.
Harper, you did this whole thing. We can't get it too dry, babe. That's enough.
Oh my gosh.
And Harper just slipped and almost fell in the whole thing. Got flour all over herself. We'll just make it worse, right, Harper? All right, so we've got flour on the outside of our bread. And now what we're just gonna do is just do a little design on it. So I am going to just cut this direction to have a little design on it this direction for this one.
Mom, can
What do
I
you think?
do
Is
it
it pretty?
today?
Or should we do it this way too?
Let's do it that way too.
Okay.
Mom, I want to help too though.
A crisscross direction
I
on
wanna
this one.
help.
So that one's done. Harper will help with the other one. So we're just gonna set this one aside for now. And with this one, we are going to do another design. Let's go straight across the middle. Okay. And then we'll go this way. And then one more right here. And then we're going to do the same thing on the other side to make it look like it's even. Although this side is a little deeper, Harper.
Why?
All right, what do you think? Is that one pretty?
Yeah.
Or do we need to do a line this direction? And then we'll do two
Mom.
lines this direction.
Mom, now it kind of looks like a leaf.
Yeah, do we want to do two lines this direction or leave it just like that? Are you happy with it? Or up still?
Still like this way. That way.
So Harper said yes, doing it that way. You think so?
Mhm.
Or just leave it?
No, don't.
I'm undecided. We don't know what we want to do.
I know.
It's very pretty though.
I know.
It's very pretty though. Let's see what we're gonna do.
Let's
Should
think
we?
about it.
Maybe on one side we'll do
Let's
it?
think about it. Okay? Let's
Think about it. 1, 2, 3. Decision made. What are we gonna do?
Keep it like that.
Keep it like this. Perfect. So now
But
Harper's
this-
gonna do the recording for me to be able to get it into the oven.
Go.
All right, we have our oven preheated to 425, and we're just gonna get everything in now. So we're gonna put this flat one in first, and then the second one, like I said, we're gonna put it right inside of our Dutch oven. So I'm gonna take the lid off, and I'm gonna scoot it out just a little bit, and I'm just taking the whole parchment paper and all, and plopping it right inside our Dutch oven. And then I'm going to put the lid right back on top of it. Just like that. Tuck the sides down a little bit. And we're going to cook these for 30 to 35 minutes. All right. Jason is trying that sourdough, homemade sourdough bread. He's not a crust fan at all, and it hurts with his braces. So, what do you think, bud?
Good.
Good? And here's Harper with her taste test. She took a huge bite out of that piece of bread. We'll see what she thinks as soon as she's done chewing. Don't make a mess. You and your marker drawn face. She drew chicken pox on her forehead. And on her neck. And on her legs. She thought it was hilarious.
Everywhere.
Everywhere, yep. That was a big bite. What do you think? Do you think it tastes yummy? Give me a yes or a no. What do you think of the bread? A thumbs up from Harper! And this is what the bread looks like sliced. I put some butter and some Himalayan pink salt on there. And that's the bread. Yum. Again, thank you for watching our videos. We truly appreciate it.